Galactic Standard Observation Log, Terran Engagement Sector 7. Recorder Senior Xener Psychologist Krinder Voss, Andromedan Marine Corps. Supplemental Psychological Analysis Humanity Threat Level Existential Wildcard. Let me begin with the universal truth that every seasoned interstellar researcher learns, usually the hard way: humans are not a bug in the cosmic system. They are a feature so unexpected that it makes quantum mechanics look like a predictable kindergarten math problem. Our first real encounter with humanity wasn't some grand diplomatic exchange or a carefully orchestrated first contact scenario. No, it was more like watching a cosmic train wreck in slow motion, fascinating, terrifying, and impossible to look away from. The Andromedan Galactic Archives have a special classification for species that defy conventional biological and sociological understanding. Humans don't just occupy a category in this classification, they basically invented an entirely new taxonomic realm of existential chaos. Consider this: most advanced civilizations develop space travel after centuries of careful technological progression, peaceful negotiations, incremental scientific advancements, rational decision-making. Humans? They looked at the vast, terrifying vacuum of space and essentially said, "Hold my beer," a phrase that, by the way, took our xenolinguistic teams 3 years to properly translate. It doesn't just mean a beverage transfer. It means watch me do something monumentally stupid with absolute confidence. Our initial contact occurred in the Earth year 2089, during what humans casually referred to as the Second Cold Fusion Conference on their moon. I was part of the Andromedan Diplomatic Observation Team, a group of what we considered the most adaptable and open-minded researchers in our galaxy. We were wrong. So spectacularly wrong. The conference itself was mundane by most standards. Researchers from various Earth nations discussing energy production technologies. What made it extraordinary was how they conducted this serious scientific gathering. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who would later become a legendary figure in human-alien interactions, was presenting a breakthrough in fusion containment. Instead of the sterile, carefully modulated presentation we expected, she walked onto the stage wearing what appeared to be a lab coat with multiple coffee stains, holding a half-eaten protein bar, and began her presentation by saying, "So, who wants to see something that'll make nuclear physicists cry?" Our translation matrices almost short-circuited trying to process the contextual humor. Her presentation involved live demonstrations that would have been considered criminally negligent in any other known civilization. She casually manipulated plasma containment fields with the same nonchalance most species reserve for stirring a cup of tea. When a containment field momentarily destabilized an event that would have triggered full evacuation protocols in any other research environment, she simply raised an eyebrow, made a sarcastic comment about Tuesday being boring anyway, and recalibrated the entire system in less time than it took our lead researcher to complete a panic-based respiratory cycle. The Andromedan research team's collective psychological profile went into complete recalibration that day. Humans weren't just different. They were a statistical anomaly wrapped in a biological enigma, served with a side of weaponized sarcasm. Our comprehensive initial reports described humans as unpredictable biological systems with apparent disregard for conventional survival protocols. This was a polite way of saying they were certifiably insane by any reasonable galactic standard. Let me provide some context that might help understand humanity's unique position in the cosmic ecosystem. Biological resilience: humans evolved on a planet that seemed actively hostile to their existence. Their homeworld, Earth, featured extreme temperature variations from -50 to 50 degrees Celsius, multiple predatory species, geological instabilities including volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunamis, atmospheric conditions that would sterilize most known life forms, psychological characteristics, infinite capacity for both brutal violence and compassionate cooperation, problem-solving skills that bordered on the quantum improbable, a humor mechanism that could transform near-death experiences into comedic narratives, absolute, irrational confidence in their ability to overcome any challenge. Our initial xenobiological assessments concluded that humans should have gone extinct multiple times over. Instead, they not only survived but proceeded to become the most dynamically adaptive species in recorded galactic history. Take their medical technologies, for instance. While most advanced civilizations developed regenerative techniques over millennia, humans accelerated this process through a combination of biological engineering, computational modeling, and what can only be described as stubborn scientific rage. A human researcher named Dr. Marcus Chen once regenerated a complex neural network using a technique that our best medical AI considered a 0.000003% probability success scenario. Not only did he succeed, but he also live-streamed the entire process while drinking what he called an energy drink, a caffeine-based liquid that would have killed most known biological entities. The Jackal Squad mission on Xerxes 9 would become our most comprehensive case study in human capability. A mission so complex, so utterly beyond conventional military strategy, that it would be studied in Xena military academies for generations. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because before we could truly understand what made humans extraordinary, we needed to witness something that would fundamentally challenge our understanding of biological limitation, psychological resilience, and the very definition of survival. Humans. Always keeping the universe interesting. Always making us question everything we thought we knew. And trust me, we were about to be surprised. Again. Xerxes 9 was not a planet. It was a cosmic middle finger to the concept of hospitable environments. Imagine taking the worst desert you've ever seen, adding radiation levels that would make a nuclear testing ground look like a relaxing spa, throwing in wind speeds that could strip paint off military-grade alloys, and then cranking up the ambient temperature to surface of the sun levels. That was Xerxes 9 on a good day. The planet existed in a perpetual state of geological tantrum. Sandstorms could appear with zero warning, transforming the landscape from rocky terrain to a swirling hellscape in milliseconds. Geological surveys suggested the planet was approximately 70% rock, 20% radiation, and 10% pure, concentrated screw-you energy. Naturally, it was a prime strategic location. The rebel communication hub we were tracking belonged to a splinter group, known as the Crimson Horizon, a collection of separatist factions who believed the current galactic governance was about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. They weren't entirely wrong, but their solution involved a lot more explosives and a lot less diplomacy. Jackal Squad's mission was deceptively simple: locate the hub, disable communications, prevent a potential uprising that could destabilize 3 star systems. The squad consisted of 4 humans, each more unlikely than the last. Elena Rodriguez, squad leader. Age 35. Specialization: tactical operations and advanced improvisation. Unofficial title: person most likely to survive an apocalypse while making sarcastic comments. Marcus Holloway, heavy weapons specialist. Age 28. Specialization: explosive ordnance and quantum mechanical engineering. Unofficial title: guy who treats high-yield explosives like most people treat cooking recipes. Aisha Khan, communications and infiltration expert. Age 32. Specialization: cybernetic warfare and linguistic manipulation. Unofficial title: human, who can hack your systems and make you feel bad about your life choices. Diego Ramirez, medical and survival specialist. Age 36. Specialization: field medicine, xenobiology adaptation. Unofficial title: walking medical miracle who probably considers impossible a personal challenge. Our observation team watched their approach with a mixture of professional fascination and barely concealed terror. "They're moving into the radiation zone," muttered Jorvik, our marine reconnaissance specialist. His 3 eyes were simultaneously tracking multiple quantum scanner displays, a neat trick that usually impressed most species. Right now, he looked impressed and slightly nauseated. The radiation levels in this sector would have sterilized most known biological entities. Humans? They treated it like a minor inconvenience, the way most people might regard a light drizzle. Rodriguez's communication was minimal, precise. Short, clipped phrases that carried volumes of meaning. Sector clear. Possible thermal signatures at grid reference 037 Delta. Holloway, adjust western perimeter. Quantum interference detected. Khan, running interference on local comm bands. Minimal detection probability. Our translation matrices worked overtime, not just converting language but attempting to decode the complex tactical ballet they were performing. Mara, our junior xenobiological analyst, leaned closer to the quantum scanners. "They're moving like a single organism," she whispered. "Look how they compensate for each other's blind spots." It was more than tactical coordination. This was something deeper. a level of trust and interconnectedness that defied standard military training protocols. Little did we know we were about to witness something that would redefine our understanding of biological adaptation, psychological resilience, and the absolute lunacy of human survival mechanisms. Xerxes 9 was about to get very, very interesting. If you've never seen a human completely disregard the laws of biological probability, you haven't lived. Or, more accurately, you haven't witnessed a species that treats mortal injury like a mild inconvenience. The moment occurred exactly 47 minutes into the mission. At grid reference 212 Epsilon, a rocky outcropping that looked like something a geologist would describe as aggressively inhospitable. Marcus Holloway was the first to trigger the unexpected. One moment, he was providing heavy weapons coverage for Rodriguez's advance. The next, a rebel plasma cannon, something that could vaporize most known biological entities within milliseconds, caught him square in the right shoulder. The blast was so intense that our quantum scanners momentarily glitched, unable to process the level of energy discharge. Fascinating, muttered Jorvik, his three eyes simultaneously tracking multiple data streams. Typical plasma discharge should have completely atomized the organic matter. Except humans don't do typical, not even close. The plasma blast should have turned Holloway into a fine mist of carbon molecules. Instead, it did something our entire observation team found utterly incomprehensible. It mostly severed his right arm, leaving a cauterized wound that looked like something between a medical nightmare and a cosmic joke. Most species would have immediately collapsed. Entered shock. Required immediate medical evacuation. Holloway's response? Well, that's going to leave a mark. Let me repeat that. A man just lost a significant portion of his arm to a plasma weapon capable of melting military-grade titanium alloys, and his primary concern seemed to be the potential dry cleaning bill for his tactical uniform. Rodriguez's response was equally surreal. Instead of panicking, she executed what can only be described as a tactical masterpiece. Ramirez, quick seal, she barked. Holloway, suppressing fire with left hand. And Marcus did. Exactly as she commanded, one-handed, against multiple armed insurgents, while presumably experiencing what most medical professionals would categorize as catastrophic physical trauma. Our xenobiological analyst Mara was practically vibrating with scientific excitement. They're treating a potentially fatal injury like a minor tactical inconvenience. Jorvik's mandibles clicked rapidly, the equivalent of a sharp intake of breath in his species. Humans are insane, he muttered. Gloriously, statistically improbable insane. The rebels, expecting their plasma cannon to have eliminated a threat, found themselves suddenly under intense, precise counterfire from a man who was, by all conventional understanding, should have been unconscious or dead. Aisha Khan's electronic warfare capabilities went into overdrive, jamming their communication frequencies, creating tactical chaos. Diego Ramirez was already moving, his medical kit emerging with the speed of a practiced combat medic. Tourniquet applied. Nano-seal in progress. Estimated blood loss minimal, Ramirez reported, his voice as calm as if he were discussing the weather. Holloway, meanwhile, continued providing covering fire with his non-dominant hand, while missing a significant portion of his primary arm. Our observation team's collective psychological profile was experiencing what can only be described as a comprehensive meltdown. This wasn't just survival. This was a fundamental rejection of biological limitations. A middle finger raised directly at the concept of impossible. Humans, always keeping the universe interesting. And we were about to discover that this was just the beginning. Medical facilities are supposed to be quiet, sterile environments of calm recovery. Apparently, nobody told the Jackal Squad this universal rule. 3 hours after Holloway's dramatic plasma-induced limb removal, our observation team found ourselves witnessing something that would be filed under inexplicable human behavior in every xenobiological archive across the galaxy. The medical recovery bay wasn't a place of somber recuperation. It was more like a combination of a comedy club, an engineering workshop, and a strategic planning center. Diego Ramirez had already begun the preliminary cybernetic integration process. For most species, this would involve weeks of careful calibration, psychological evaluation, and gradual neural mapping. Humans, predictably, viewed it as a mild afternoon project. So Holloway said, watching Ramirez attach advanced neural interface components, do I get to choose the color? Because if I'm getting a robot arm, I'm thinking something between tactical black and unnecessarily intimidating chrome. Ramirez didn't even look up from his microscopic neural soldering. You're thinking about arm aesthetics while we're reconstructing your entire neuromuscular interface. Priorities, Diego. Priorities. Our xenobiological analyst Mara was recording everything, her research appendages trembling with scientific excitement. They're treating major biological reconstruction like a casual home improvement project. The medical bay's quantum adaptive reconstruction unit looked like something between a high-tech surgical center and a mechanic's garage. Advanced nano-regenerative technologies hummed and pulsed, adapting Holloway's biological systems with an efficiency that would make most advanced civilizations weep with technological jealousy. Jorvik, our marine reconnaissance specialist, kept muttering statistical improbabilities. His three eyes were simultaneously tracking medical readouts, neural integration processes, and Holloway's alarmingly casual attitude. Probability of full functional recovery after plasma-based limb severance he calculated, approximately 0.0003% in known galactic medical databases. Holloway overheard. Sounds like a challenge. The medical team, a mix of human and advanced cybernetic specialists, worked with a coordination that defied conventional medical protocols. They weren't just reattaching a limb. They were essentially engineering a biological-mechanical hybrid that would make most technological institutes weep with inadequacy. Elena Rodriguez appeared, looking like she had just completed a light morning workout rather than a high-stakes military operation. She carried what appeared to be a high-calorie nutrition pack and a tablet displaying mission reports. "How we doing, Holloway?" she asked, tossing him the nutrition pack. "Fantastic," he responded, catching the pack one-handed. "Turns out losing a limb is an excellent way to get some downtime. 10 out of 10 would recommend." The sarcasm was so thick you could practically slice it. Aisha Khan entered, carrying what looked like a modified combat interface module. "I've been analyzing the plasma weapon specs," she announced. "Interesting design. Inefficient energy distribution, clearly designed by someone who failed basic quantum mechanics. Most species would be discussing trauma, recovery protocols, psychological impact. The Jackal Squad, they were already strategizing their next operational deployment." Ramirez finished the initial neural interface. Initial calibration complete. Estimated full functionality 72 hours. Holloway raised an eyebrow. 72 hours? Sounds like you're being conservative. That's the accelerated human timeline, Ramirez deadpanned. Most species would require months, potentially years. Challenge accepted, Holloway grinned. Our observation team exchanged looks. These weren't just soldiers. They were walking, talking violations of every known biological and psychological limitation. Humans. Always rewriting the rules. And we were about to discover that this was just the beginning of their extraordinary capabilities. 48 hours after losing a limb, most species would be contemplating existential questions, writing philosophical memoirs, or preparing elaborate rehabilitation strategies. Marcus Holloway was preparing to complete a high-stakes planetary infiltration mission. The newly installed cybernetic arm wasn't just a replacement. It was a statement. A technological middle finger raised directly at the concept of biological limitation. Our observation team watched in a state of perpetual collective disbelief. The neural integration was so seamless that Holloway's movements with the new limb were indistinguishable from his previous biological configuration. But it wasn't just about mechanical precision. There was something else, a quality that defied pure technological explanation. Adaptation wasn't just a capability for humans. It was a fundamental personality trait. "Preliminary systems check complete," Holloway announced during the pre-mission briefing. His voice carried the same sardonic tone he'd used before losing his arm. "Arm functionality at 98.7%. The 1.3% deficit is purely for dramatic effect." Elena Rodriguez didn't even blink. Most commanding officers would have considered medical evacuation, extended recovery protocols, psychological evaluation. She looked at Holloway like he was reporting a minor equipment adjustment. "Confirmed," she responded. "Any calibration notes?" "Slight overcompensation in fine motor control when handling quantum encrypted communication devices," Holloway noted. "Nothing that can't be managed with minimal adjustment." A minimal adjustment. He was talking about a cybernetic limb integration like most people might discuss changing a car's oil. The mission parameters hadn't changed. The Crimson Horizon Rebel Communication Hub was still a critical strategic target. If anything, the team's determination seemed to have intensified. Aisha Khan had spent the intervening hours conducting what she casually referred to as comprehensive communication infrastructure deconstruction, a fancy way of saying she was systematically dismantling the rebel group's entire communication network. "Their encryption is adorable," she muttered, fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "It's like they're using a child's puzzle box to protect military-grade secrets." Diego Ramirez continued monitoring Holloway's biological systems, his medical interface displaying a complexity that would make most advanced medical AIs weep with technological inadequacy. The planetary environment of Xerxes 9 remained unchanged, a hellscape of radiation, unpredictable geological activity, and wind speeds that could strip military-grade protective gear to molecular components. Most species would have considered multiple environmental contingencies, risk mitigation strategies, potential evacuation protocols. The Jackal Squad? They treated it like a mild inconvenience. Jorvik, our marine reconnaissance specialist, kept muttering statistical improbabilities. His three eyes tracked multiple data streams, each displaying increasingly impossible human capabilities. Probability of mission success with a recently cybernetically reconstructed team member, he calculated, approximately 0.000004% in standard galactic military databases. Holloway overheard. He grinned. "Sounds like a challenge." The pre-mission preparation was a ballet of technological integration, biological adaptation, and what can only be described as weaponized confidence. Quantum communication devices were calibrated with a precision that defied conventional understanding. Tactical gear was modified on the fly, with Holloway's new cybernetic arm seamlessly integrating complex technological interfaces. "Interesting design," he commented, adjusting a quantum communication scrambler. The neural interface allows for a 0.03-second faster response time compared to standard biological configurations. Most soldiers would be contemplating their recent near-death experience. Holloway was conducting performance optimization assessments. Rodriguez's tactical briefing was a masterpiece of strategic complexity. Multiple contingency scenarios were mapped, each potential outcome analyzed with a computational precision that would make most strategic AIs look like amateur chess players. Rebel Communication Hub is located in a geologically unstable sector, she explained. Estimated structural integrity 62%. Radiation levels significantly above standard tolerance levels. Thermal variance unpredictable. Most teams would have requested additional support, orbital reconnaissance, extensive preparatory measures. The Jackal Squad's response. A collective raised eyebrow that said, "And?" The quantum scanners tracking their approach showed something beyond mere tactical movement. This was an integrated biological technological system moving with a fluidity that defied conventional understanding. Holloway's cybernetic arm wasn't just a replacement. It was an enhancement. A technological extension of a biological system that refused to acknowledge limitations. When the first rebel defensive position came into view, the team's response was so quick, so precisely coordinated, that our entire observation team momentarily forgot to breathe. Humans weren't just adapting to their environment. They were rewriting the very definition of adaptation. And we were about to witness something that would fundamentally challenge everything we thought we knew about biological resilience, technological integration, and the absolute lunacy of human survival mechanisms. Xerxes 9 was about to get very, very interesting. Official Galactic Xenological Research Report. Classification: Extraordinary Behavioral Anomaly. Subject: Human Adaptive Capabilities. Prepared by Senior Xenopsychologist Krender Voss. There are moments in scientific observation that fundamentally rewrite everything we thought we understood about biological systems, technological adaptation, and the very concept of survival. The Jackal Squad's mission on Xerxes 9 was not just a military operation. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of every known limitation. The Rebel Communication Hub, a structure so strategically placed that it would have required multiple specialized military units from most known galactic civilizations, fell in precisely 47 minutes and 23 seconds. Let me elaborate on what falling means in this context. When I say fell, I don't mean a conventional military defeat. I mean a systematic, almost surgical deconstruction that was so precise, so efficiently executed, that it resembled less a military engagement and more a highly choreographed technological ballet. Marcus Holloway, the same soldier who had lost a significant portion of his arm just 72 hours earlier, moved with a fluidity that defied every known biological and technological limitation. The cybernetic arm wasn't just a replacement. It was an evolution. A statement. A technological middle finger raised directly at the concept of impossible. Aisha Khan's electronic warfare capabilities turned the rebel communication infrastructure into something resembling a digital haunted house. Encryption systems that would have taken most advanced civilizations weeks to crack were systematically dismantled with a combination of computational precision and what can only be described as weaponized sarcasm. Their security protocols, she muttered, fingers dancing across holographic interfaces, are about as robust as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. Elena Rodriguez coordinated the entire operation with a tactical precision that would make most strategic computing systems look like amateur chess players. Her ability to simultaneously track multiple complex variables, adapt to changing environmental conditions, and maintain team cohesion was so extraordinary that our initial data analysis algorithms kept producing error messages. Because the human capability was so far beyond computational prediction that the machines themselves couldn't process it. Diego Ramirez continued monitoring biological and technological integration in real time, his medical interfaces displaying a complexity that would make most advanced medical AIs weep with technological jealousy. The planetary environment of Xerxes 9 remained unchanged, a hellscape of radiation, unpredictable geological activity, and wind speeds that could strip military-grade protective gear to molecular components. Most species would have considered this environment a death sentence. The Jackal Squad treated it like a mild inconvenience. When the final rebel communication node was neutralized, there was no grand celebration, no dramatic speeches, just a clinical efficiency that was somehow more terrifying than any theatrical victory display. Mission accomplished, Rodriguez stated, her voice carrying the same tone one might use when reporting that the office coffee machine needed refilling. Our observation team's collective psychological profile was experiencing what can only be described as a comprehensive existential recalibration. Jorvik, our marine reconnaissance specialist, kept muttering statistical improbabilities. His three eyes tracked multiple data streams that consistently defied every known predictive model. Probability of mission success under these conditions he calculated for the 17th time, approximately 0.0000000001% in standard galactic military databases. Holloway overheard. He grinned. The same grin he'd used before losing his arm. The same grin he'd used while losing his arm. The same grin he'd used after losing his arm. A grin that said quite clearly probability is just another word for challenge accepted. The mission debrief was a masterpiece of understatement. Most military reports would have included extensive analysis, psychological evaluations, technological assessments. The Jackal Squad's report was 3 paragraphs long. 2 of those paragraphs were dedicated to recommending improvements to the squad's breakfast catering options. As our observation craft prepared to depart Xerxes 9, I found myself confronting a fundamental truth that would reshape our entire understanding of biological adaptation. Humans were not just another species in the galactic ecosystem. They were a force of nature, a statistical anomaly, a continuous walking violation of every known limitation. They didn't just adapt to their environment. They looked their environment directly in the eye and rewrote the fundamental rules of engagement. Humans, always keeping the universe interesting. And trust me, we were just getting started. Observation report conclusion. Recommendation continuous, extensive study. Threat level existential wildcard. Probability of future surprises approximately 100%. Senior xenopsychologist Krender Voss, Andromedan Marine Corps Xenological Research Division.